10 million DPS on a 50C budget, 17 million DPS on a 200C budget. This build is one of the most solid boss characters that I have played in longer than I can remember. It's extremely safe, doesn't require almost any gear to actually get going, and the more that you do invest in this build, the stronger it gets. With top end gear, you can get upwards of 40 million DPS on this build. This is the Toxic Rain Trickster. Hey guys, Big Ducks here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, the Toxic Rain Trickster is something that I have known exists for quite some time, but I never really decided to play it as a build, and that was kind of a mistake. So I've been playing the Toxic Rain Trickster for probably about a week and a half now due to those internet problems that I had, and I am super impressed. This build has done all of the content in the game. I did most of it with only 50C worth of gear. I mean, I just had like a 6-link silver bow, 6-socket kintsugi, and just some random rares and nothing special. And then on top of that, once you add in cluster jewels, they aren't even expensive cluster jewels, as well as a thread of hope and some other small pieces of gear, as well as upgrading to an actual like Toxic Rain bow, you get some insane damage. I'm talking like 16, 17 million with just those little upgrades. This build also seems like it's going to be absolutely amazing for League start. We'll test that closer to the start of next League. But if you're looking for a good boss character that's very safe and also clears really well, look no further. So remember guys, if you enjoy my content, make sure to like this video so that more people can see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this. And without further ado, let's take a look at some of the highlights that we got from this build over on my stream at twitch.tv/bigducks, which you should follow by the way, and then we'll get into the guide. This ability right there, that like multi-hit attack, apparently cannot be dodged at all. What are you doing, buddy? Did he just give up? That kind of looked like Chimera just kind of gave up there, dude. He's just like, I'm fucking done with this shit, dude. I'm leaving. He straight up just walked away from me and stopped attacking. He was just like, fuck this shit, dude. I'm out. I'm done. I can't handle your shit anymore. It's time for some elder abuse. I want to be able to, when they bring heist into the game, I want to be able to have one of the rogues and bring them with me all the time and have their buffs no matter what. Like, let me bring my boy Vendiri with me. Dude, stop sucking me so hard, Elder. This is the true Elder abuse right here, is me. The Elder's just like, what the fuck just happened, dude? Some guy came out of a fucking portal and just bonked me with a goddamn hammer. Like, can you imagine? Just getting bonked with a hammer from a goddamn portal? I'd be pretty upset, dude. Not gonna lie. I'm surprised that Elder has just been kind of like given up on as a boss, really. Like, this fight is so easy in comparison to all of the other ones, right? Like, Shaper is actually relatively difficult. Like, it's scaled to be quite a bit of health. Elder, like this normal Elder, this is basically like a joke. Like, this is still an eye level 83 zone, but like this fight wasn't always just like a complete joke. Like, it was actually pretty hard to keep Shaper alive during this fight back in the day. And he doesn't really have even close to as much health as Shaper does. Like, he's kind of just like a fucking wet paper bag, dude. Ooh, leather belt. All right, well, that was like no items, so the body pit. What a name for a zone, dude. The body pit.
You shouldn't have come here. Now I can't let you.
This is a small area. Sort of? You can use some abilities? All right, there's some like weird like blood pools on the ground here or something. He's spawning zombies now, and then he shoots some orbs. Well, that was kind of lame. He had like no cool abilities. The thing he did is crazy fucked up lore-wise. He sacrificed and drained all the blood from his slaves. I mean, sure, it's kind of messed up lore-wise, but there's, I mean, like, we've killed gods that literally ate the souls of like millions of people. So, I mean, like, he's kind of like small on the big baddies list. Like, oh no, he drank the blood of his slaves. There was like 50 of them. And then here's Katava drinking the blood of literally like fucking entire continent. All right, so it is time to do Uber Elder. I'm a little rusty on Uber Elder. I don't do this fight very much. I'm gonna go slap up some Uber Elder and see how it goes. Don't forget, don't die. True. Dodge the things, hit the boss, don't die. Easy clap. Okay, who's first? Looks like it's Shaper. Oh, that's such good damage. Holy shit. Wow, that damage is actually nuts. I'm trying to do the thing where you don't pop any of the balls. I'm trying to kite the balls right now and not pop them if I can. Oh, I put him in a bad spot. Okay, still haven't popped a ball yet. Because I might actually be able to do this. It's been a very long time, if ever, that I've been able to do this fight without popping any of the little orbs. This is unfortunate. I'm gonna have to go outside. Oh, shit. Where's Shaper? There he is. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, Shaper's down. Now just Elder.
Just need a moment.
Easy, we finally fucking did it, dude. Didn't pop a single one of those fucking balls. Easy clap. Nice. What a smack, dude. I didn't get a single one of the bad ground effects. Not a single one. And deathless. This build is actually kind of insane, not gonna lie. That was the easiest that's the easiest time I've ever had on Uber Elder. Easiest time I've ever had on Uber Elder, like without a doubt. And I've only spent what, like 200-ish C on the build so far? Like 200, 250 C on the build? Insane. Actually a ridiculous build. Alright guys, so remember, there are timestamps down below to all the different sections of this video, so if you want to jump to a specific part, make sure that you look down there for that. Now, this build, honestly, really did surprise me. I made this originally just to be a heist farmer, but it turned out to be quite a bit more than that. This is Toxic AF Streamer, my Toxic Rain Trickster. Now, this build, I actually started and did most of the content in the game on this build before I even got this bow. The bow that I was using was this silver bow here. It was just a 6-link silver branch. I used the prophecy to upgrade it into a 6-link silver bow, and I used this for most of the content in the game. I did like Shaper, Cirrus, tier 16 maps, all kinds of stuff on just this bow. And it cost me in total like 11 or 12 chaos, I think, at the time. A unlinked Kintsugi, I just 6-socketed it so I'd have more room for gems. A Ace in this Chant, which is like 10C, and then just a bunch of stuff that I pulled off of my other characters, as well as a couple pieces of gear specific for this build. I didn't do anything special, I didn't grab any crazy gear, and I was able to clear most of the stuff in the game. Now that being said, as soon as you are able to craft something like this bow, I'll be making a video about how to craft this bow here in a few days, and I'll also have some information about this in the path of building. But as soon as I was able to craft this bow, it was like night and day the amount of damage that I was doing, so huge upgrade. So I'm going to show you a couple things today. First, we're going to do a tier 16 map. This is an atoll map. It's got 4 sextants that I'm going to be using on here with a bunch of extra mobs in the zone. I'm running a Breach Scarab, a Piranha Scarab, an Elder Scarab. We're going to be running this as Beyond, and we're going to be running it with a Einhar. So this is going to be a pretty big boy, high density map, so you'll kind of get an idea of what the build's capable of. Now, this build actually moves quite fast and does pretty solid clear for the amount of money that I've invested into it. The big place that this build honestly shines is really on boss killing, but the clear is nothing to sneeze at. It is really solid clear, and most of the time it only takes about 1 attack to kill any yellow mob, any blue mob, doesn't really matter what it is, right? Typically only takes about 1 attack to kill most things. Now, this build actually is pretty safe as well. As you know, a lot of my builds have been using the Kintsugi Wind Dancer combo. Honestly, nowadays, if you thought the dodge was bad, I would heavily suggest that you give it another shot. You will die occasionally as a dodge build, but it's honestly not that common anymore. You can see I just took a big hit there, but it really didn't even kill me, even though I've only got like 5,400 life at the moment. Because I'm taking like 40% less damage in those little bits that I do get hit. It's not very often that I get hit, but when I do, it's like 40% less damage taken. This build shines particularly on single target. As soon as you stand still and start getting some of that single target stacking, you can do a ridiculous amount of damage. Oh, we got a Piranhas, and it's 10C. As I said, I mainly made this build to be a heist farmer, and it did that wonderfully. Dodge builds are honestly really good for heist. As you can kind of see, we managed to turn it into a pretty solid, just normal mapper as well. It didn't really take very much to do. I just focused on getting some good movement speed, focused on getting some good clear going. Mirage Archer does wonders for clear, honestly, and it also is like a 30% more damage multiplier for bosses. I had to do some math to get to that number, but I've included that in the path of building as well. You can see, very, very safe. I mean, I wasn't even really trying to dodge anything. You can see I'm just kind of running through the enemies and not worrying too much. You do have Enduring Cry. I mainly use that for bosses just to give me like an extra little bit of healing if I need it, and then you just keep up Blood Rage, you hit enemies, you can use Frenzy if you need to keep Frenzy charges up for bosses, and that's pretty much it. So remember, this is a pretty buffed up map, so let's take a look at how the boss damage feels. Now, boss damage does scale very heavily on this build, keep that in mind. So when you're actually killing the boss, it takes a few seconds. I get my Blood Rage going, and
Just need a moment to catch my breath.
okay, he didn't one-shot us, but you can kind of see the damage there, right? So let's go take a look at a heist. Now, heisting is what I made this build for, actually. So we have a eye level 83 heist that we're gonna do here. This is a trap disarmament repository. Original thing that I did with this build is we actually just heisted for a few days straight on this build. I did absolutely nothing but heisting. So that's what this build originally was what I was going for. Now, the reason the dodge builds are so good for heisting in particular is the fact that they can just dodge most of those big attacks that the enemies do. You don't have to worry about them, you know, like those big giant attacks killing you all the time. With a normal defensive build, eventually you're gonna get one shot by one of those. With dodge builds, you don't have to worry as much because you can dodge like 70% of them. So I found pretty big success with dodge builds in particular when it comes to heisting. You just run through, and if you want to, you can go check out my video explaining how to do heists. I actually use this build in it. You can find a link up in the top right corner, and it'll tell you a little bit more about the strategies that you can use to do well in heist. Now, I'm just gonna run through here, kind of show you an idea of how it feels. We're gonna skip to the end here so you can see how it is actually escaping the heist, and then we'll continue. All right, so we're at the end here. I'm gonna pick this up and we're going to exit. Now, this is a repository, and as some of you might know, this is one of the few maps that is very, very good for leveling. I talk about that in my guide, but you'll see that as I'm moving through here, I don't have to worry too much about anything that's going on. You just kind of kill the enemies, press the buttons to open the doors, and just move around. Most of the attacks are dodged, and anything that does hit you isn't actually gonna one-shot you. Now, I recently, especially on this dodge build, I've kind of just started ignoring those little trap rooms like that, like the agility wires, the trap doors that have a bunch of like things that shoot at you. I kind of have just been ignoring them and running straight through them. You can kind of get an idea of why the build is good for heisting. So now that I've shown you a map, now that I've shown you a heist, let's talk a little bit in general about how the build works. Now, this is a Toxic Rain build, and the way that we scale the damage of this particular build is through gem levels and through damage over time mechanics. Now, Toxic Rain itself does scale very well with gem levels. You can see that my Toxic Rain is level 27. This is from a level 21 base gem, +1 to levels from the actual bow that I've got here itself, and then +5 to levels from the Empower. Now, you could do much better than this, right? You could get a bow with a little bit better stats. You could get a tier 4 Empower. You could get like I think it's a Phantasmal Toxic Rain. You could go for a ton of crazy stuff on this build. There's plenty of upgrades that you can make. You can find most of those in the path of building in the expensive item section. But honestly, I didn't really feel like I needed it. This build mainly survives through Wind Dancer and Kintsugi. You'll see that I've got the 20% less damage taken if you've not been hit recently. With so much dodge, we really don't get hit very often at all. I also do have a pretty significant amount of evasion. And then that plus Wind Dancer, which also says 20% less damage if you haven't been hit recently. It's 40% less damage taken when you haven't been hit. And since with the elusive effect, this quartz flask here, as well as our dodge from acrobatics and phase acrobatics, we can get up to max dodge and spell dodge pretty consistently. So we don't get hit very often, and when we do, it's like 40% less. So we have a pretty respectable health pool. You can get up to 6,000 plus health if you really want to, but I've found with Kintsugi and Wind Dancer, you really don't need much more than like 5,500. We do use Asinus Chant. Now, this is an interesting item, and it's mainly just to help with clear and to give us a curse. So you can see that every time you use an attack, it it cycles through each of the abilities that are socketed in my helmet. I've got Despair, Contagion, Essence Drain, and Soul Rend. So when you're sitting here spamming, you'll notice that all those abilities get spammed out constantly. And something interesting is that we are using the Shaper Flask Dying Sun. And when you use that flask, it actually works on all of the spells. You'll see that we're getting triple Essence Drain and triple Soul Rends coming out. It does help quite a bit for clear. Other than that, it gives us some like attack speed and some decent stats. The rest of this gear, there's nothing super important here. I do want to talk about the Cinder Swallow real quick. This isn't required, but the enemies ignited by you take 10% increased damage mod is actually usable by us, because when you crit, it does inherently have a 100% chance to ignite, and we do have a little bit of fire damage on our gloves. Now you can get this on like your quiver, you can get this on your gloves, you can get this on rings, wherever you want. You just need a little bit. You just need to be able to ignite, and you gotta have a little tiny bit of crit chance. Currently my crit chance is like 7% or something like that. Yeah, it's like 7.9% to crit. We attack pretty frequently, so we do get that crit chance every once in a while, and we are able to ignite and take use of that. It also gives us some recovery as well as some movement speed and some chance to avoid being stunned. Other than that, Dying Sun is very useful because the way that Toxic Rain works is that you can see these little pods pop open there, and then every single one of those pods actually does an additional damage modifier. So when you have additional projectiles, you'll notice that we get more of those pods. So right here, you can see how many there are. There's a ton more while we're using the +2 to projectiles from the Dying Sun. So that's the idea. More projectiles equals more damage for this build. The build actually does do damage on the initial hit. The damage over time that you see here is from the initial hit, but each of those pods causes an additional damage over time effect as well. Pretty much it for the gear. The skill tree is pretty straightforward. This is just like most chaos damage over time builds. You go and you get the chaos damage over time, life, defenses, evasion. This is a bow build, so we do get some bow nodes here, bow nodes here, bow nodes here, and then increased skill effect duration in both of these spots. Now, later in the path of building, I'll show you a little bit about a Watcher's Eye that you can put here, as well as some cluster jewels that you can put here. They're not necessary, but they are pretty cheap, and you can get some really good effectiveness out of them. Now, as for leveling, you do level as Caustic Arrow mainly. I do suggest that if you are leveling this as a League starter sometime in the future, I'll have a specific League starter video for it later on. But if you are leveling as a League start build, I would say that this is pretty solid. Just pick up Caustic Arrow early on, fit it into a 4-link as easily as you can. Try to find a short bow early on if you can. That is the best base bow to be using. You can typically find those from the vendor here. Like here's a short bow, very simple to get, 1 Scroll of Wisdom. Now if you can get a short bow, this is your BIS bow until like, unless you got like a Silver Branch or a Quill Rain or anything else, right? You can try to roll attack speed on it if you want to. As soon as you get attack speed from your hideout, you can craft attack speed on it. That is the best modifier that you can really get early on. So you would just do attack speed, you'd go for the level 24 attack speed here, toss an augmentation on it if you have it and see what you can get. We got cold damage, that's not terrible, it's not good either, but is what it is. The other thing that you should really be looking for when leveling is making sure that you get movement speed boots. Remember, as I always say, the best thing that you can do for yourself to level faster through the game is to move quicker and just keep on pushing through the quest. The hideout is lava, town is lava, stay out of it as much as you can, push forward, keep going through the quest, and kill things on the way. You can try to purchase movement speed boots from here. You can type in and see if anything pops up, and it doesn't. That's for runners is what you're looking for. And you can look for 3 links and 4 links. That's the main thing that you're looking for. Remember that if you're having issues with surviving, it's almost assuredly because you don't have life and you don't have resists. So you can actually just blue roll yourself some life gear. Pick up any random life gear that you can find. Once again, go to your hideout after you unlock it from Helena in Act 2, and you can craft resists on your gear starting very, very early. You can see that there's a craft for resists at level 12. You can get up to 20 fire, cold, or lightning resist at level 12. Fill up your gear with that if you need help with leveling, if you need some additional survival while leveling. Don't give up on health. Don't give up on that kind of stuff. When you hit Act 6, you'll be able to get to Lily Roth. You can purchase all the gems that you need for the build and start swapping out into your endgame links. This is a pretty straightforward build. There's not really much else to say about it. I do recommend that you try it. Honestly, I had one of the easiest Uber Elders I have ever done on this build in the entire time that I've played PoE. I do want to go into the path of building for a minute here and show you what's available in there. I am continuously trying to improve how good these path of buildings are, so make sure that you take a look at them, and let's go take a look right now. So now that we're over in the path of building, I want you guys to know that this path of building has a ton of information for you. It's got all kinds of good stuff in here. It's got the full trees, it's got multiple leveling trees, it's got a tree with no cluster jewels, a tree with full cluster jewels, and the Thread of Hope. You can see that the progression of the ascendancy is here through these leveling trees. You can see which ascendancy points to get first, which actual stats to get first. So I could come up and grab life damage over time, some life damage over time, some bow damage over time, some dodge. And then as we progress, you'll see that the next ascendancy we get is over here. Continue down, grab these bow nodes, grab Wind Dancer, and we can go all the way up to the final version of the build. It also does have a bunch of skills that you can use. You can see that we have 2 main attack skills here. We've got the normal one with no special gems, and then also the one with the awakened alternate quality stuff. You can see that with the normal main attack, we're doing 17 million damage, and if we swap over to the awakened alternate quality, it goes up to 23.8 million damage. It's kind of insane how much that these gems actually do for that. But you can still do all of the content in the game with just the normal main attack. That's what I used. It's got leveling options here. It can show you in order which gems that you should be using for leveling. So like, for example, if you have a 4 link, you should be doing Caustic Arrow, Volley, Pierce, and then Void Manipulation. Get a 5th link, add Vicious Projectiles in. If you get a 6th link, add Swift Affliction in. Easy as that. Also, you can use Toxic Rain to supplement single target, and then you've got some auras here as well. You can see I've got all of the abilities that we use. You can check through here. You can see which slots they are actually slotted into. It doesn't really matter most of the time where you put the gems. Just make sure that you get the links that I show you here somewhere on your gear, okay? I also do have multiple item sets. So you've got my gear. This is the gear that I use to complete the entire game. We also do have budget gear. I did most of the content of the game with a gear similar to this budget gear. Keep that in mind. It's just a silver bow, ace enchant, kintsugi, and a bunch of random stuff with like life resist and some crafted mods on them. That's pretty much all that it is. We've also got the expensive gear here, which is going to give you insane damage. This is much, much more expensive. Keep that in mind. This is really just meant to be lofty goals. As you can see on the items here, it just says these expensive items are not required for the build to melt all the content in the game. They're just here to give you lofty potential goals for making a god tier character. You don't need any of these, but I put them there for the people who really want to do that. Now, keep in mind that all of the gear does have these little notes on them now. I've made it so that if you have questions about a specific item, you can look down and it'll tell you why or how we use it. And also you can see like on the Dying Sun here, I accounted for the Mirage Archer support with the Dying Sun Flask. That's why that more damage is there. I put a ton of work into getting all of this like working properly, organized all the items, giving you guys a ton of stuff about this. And last but not least, we have the notes section. I have spent a ton of time building these notes, making sure that it has all the information that you need. If you have questions, this is the place to go. I've got information about alternate quality gems, frequently asked questions. If you have a question, go here first. I've also got information on how to get the actual damage of the build and what you can expect, how to level the build, what items you should grab for leveling, what abilities to use, actually leveling it, ascendancies, playing the build, how to craft the bow that I'm using, including a cheap option and an expensive option. I'll also be making a video guide on how to make that bow here in a few days. I also talk about the cluster jewels and the thread of hope and give some final thoughts and things about it. I really have spent quite a bit of time getting this to be as perfect as I possibly can. If you have any issues with anything that you see in here, make sure to let me know. You can join over on Discord. Now, speaking of Discord, if you do have any questions that aren't answered in the video, they aren't answered in the Path of Building, they aren't answered anywhere else, join my Discord. It is linked down below in the description. There's a channel called PoE Questions. You can ask. There's a bunch of super helpful people over there, or maybe I myself might help you depending on what time of day it is. If you have questions, that's the last place to go if you can't get help anywhere else. So Toxic Rain, honestly, a very impressive build. I didn't expect this to be as good as it was. I knew that it was a good build, but I really wasn't expecting it to be another one of those like spend 50 chaos, complete the entire game type builds. If you're looking for something that you can just jump right into, do amazing with no gear, this is the one to do it. If you're looking for something that you can jump into and spend a whole bunch of currency and get a ton out of it, this is the one to do it. Like 40 million DPS if you really push it. Remember guys, if you enjoy my content, make sure to like this video so that more people can see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this, and stay safe out there in raid class, and I'll see you guys in the next video.